Next up, Marlise Richter is working for TB HIV Care. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Really nice to be here. You can't see it, but there's a big timer here that looks a little bit as if a bomb is going to go off. So I think we all feel as if we bomb the bomb squad who needs to stop the bomb. So if we look a little bit nervous, it's because of the timer. My name is Marlise. I work at the intersection of advocacy and research. I'm a consultant with TB HIV Care, and I also work at the School of Public Health at the University of Cape Town and the African Centre for Migration and Society at the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. And the comments that I have this afternoon is around some of the progress that we've made in South Africa, building a coalition around the decriminalization of drugs for personal use. And I would like to give you a little bit of background. You probably have heard a lot about South Africa in the last couple of days, but I think it is important to note that we criminalize drugs, that we have about 200,000 drug-related arrests, that are compounding and causing harms to people who use drugs, to individual health and public health, and that there are increasingly calls for the decriminalization of drugs. In South Africa, there's a unique confluence of political and social events that we hope to capitalize on. The one is the decriminalization of cannabis by our apex court, the Constitutional Court. We've got new cannabis legislation. We've got a new government of national unity from the national elections last year, which means there's some spaces to maneuver within our government. And then importantly, in terms of civil society activism, we have made tremendous strides towards the decriminalization of sex work. And we use all of these as strategic entry points into drug law reform. So our approach was to bring a group of stakeholders together, people who use drugs, community representatives, to map a path for us in terms of decriminalization. And we sought to identify opportunities and challenges. And during this workshop that we had last year in December, I think some of the consultations and the expert speakers we brought in from other sectors, we drew on the lessons from the sex work decriminalization movement, the litigation and the advocacy around the legalization of same-sex marriages in South Africa, and then also the hate crimes working group. And some of the key points that emerged through those discussions were the importance of forging a broad-based coalition. So to have a minimum viable product where people agree to some of the values and the asks, and they might politically disagree on many other things, but that you have a core agreement around some of the key components of decriminalization. And then, of course, also thinking about narrative change. We thought about law reform options. We could either do a constitutional court challenge or go through Parliament. And then some of the points of contention was the definition of decrim and the details of a drug threshold. And then, of course, the limited resources available to do this work emerged as a big challenge. So our next steps was to have some meetings that we had as a working group, and to try and build consensus around a specific definition of decriminalization in South Africa. And we formed, eventually after these discussions, we formed the framework of this coalition, and the definition, just out of interest, we used is the removal of all criminal penalties for personal drug use and possession. We also selected a steering committee. So the next work that we need to do is to define thresholds and balancing regulation, personal rights, and the legal strategy that is needed. And then once we have that knuckled down, to decide on advocacy and then building the coalitions. And I'm going to end off with our coalition vision, which is what we had consensus on. And the next steps is where the real work comes in building this coalition. And within 11 seconds left, I would wish to thank my co-authors and our funders and the collaborators. Thanks very much.